off, but back in the building. Got the sound all the way up. I got two laptops now, so I won't even have to have the sound in the background here. I'm gonna have it on silent on this laptop. Just want to make sure that all the sound is good and everybody can hear me. Hope Greg comes back because his boy Conor McGregor will be short, very shortly. There it is. Um, yeah, Conor McGregor's coming back, not this weekend, but next. Only reason we're doing this a week early is because I'm doing the giveaway for the T-shirt giveaway next weekend or next Thursday. Is the Wednesday is going to be the final night of the entries, and then Thursday for the show. It's not really going to be a show. It's just going to be us filming the drawing of putting names in the hat. Excuse me, and then Marley taking the name out of the hat and announcing who won, the whole nine. So that will be next Thursday's show, which is why we're going to do the predictions for 246 this Thursday. You know, it's a little bit irrelevant because it's still a week and a couple of weeks away or whatever. We're going to do it now. Let's see. Risen, PFL, Clarissa Shields hasn't happened yet. I don't believe NBA. There's only NBA on right now. Thank the Lord. We're in the playoffs. If anybody hears barking in the background, we just got a puppy a couple days before Christmas, I believe it was. So we are currently dealing with raising a puppy. So he's a little whiny, especially when you put him in the house by himself. He gets a little whiny. He's barking in the back. I don't know if you hear that or not. I wish I would have had the headphones so I could see if you guys hear that. But it's all good. We got a great card coming up, 246. A lot of young talent. I predicted, I think it was 5 fights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights. Not all of these fights are going to be on the main card. I just seen an updated main card to prelim, roster, lineup, whatever you want to call it. And the Gadelha Grasso fight is on the prelims, as well as the Alexei Oleinik Maurice Green fight is also on the prelims. So 2 out of the 5 fights that we will be going over today are on the prelims, not the main card. But to my attention, these would be the 5 biggest fights on the card. So even if they all don't end up being on the main card, you know, I have my reasons for breaking down these fights. So first fight's going to be Anthony Pettis versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. Anthony Pettis, of course, this is his return to 155 after going 1-1 at 170. The only man to knock out Card Success. Card Success. I'm gonna get there, Greg. I'm gonna get there. I can't put up Success for some reason, but I don't agree with you at all. The card doesn't suck ass. The card has amazing main card fights. Then you got Roxanne Modafferi, Macy Barber, Andre Fili, Sadiq Youssef, Drew Dober, Nasrat Hapcrest, Chad Skelly, Grant Dawson, Tim Elliott, Askar Askarov, Brian Kelleher, Ode Osborne, Sabina Mazo, and JJ Aldrich. I think all those are amazing fights. A lot of those are going to be on the prelims. Like I said earlier, Grasso versus Gadelha and Oleinik versus Green will both be on the prelims. So between the prelims, then you got Pettis fighting for Hayes, going to be an amazing fight. McGregor's coming back. I don't understand how you could say this is going to be a bad card. McGregor's coming back. It's your boy, buddy. Also, Greg, I don't know if you're here. First 10 minutes of doing this, I'm doing a T-shirt giveaway. You probably already subscribed. If you have, let me know, and I will enter you in there. I don't know how I'm going to get in touch with you if you do win, because you don't have social media, but I'll figure out a way. Just let me know if you've subscribed to the page. If you have, that's all I'm doing for the entries. If you subscribe to the page, your name's entered into the drawing. You got a chance to win a free T-shirt. It's this T-shirt. It's got the logo really small in the front like that. Oh, geez. Only fight to watch that night? I don't agree, man. I think this, and then a big logo on the back there. I don't agree. I think that might be a little bit biased as far as the McGregor trolling stuff. I just don't agree. Diego Ferreira's an amazing up-and-comer. He'll be fighting Anthony Pettis at Pettis' return to 155. Gadelha is always exciting to watch. Alexei Oleinik, submission specialist, almost never been submitted in his life, going against an up-and-coming heavyweight Maurice Green. Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington's going to be an amazing fight. Roxanne Modafferi could shock the world at a plus 1,000 underdog going against Macy Barber. That's going to be a sick fight. Sadiq Youssef is a crazy powerful puncher going against Andre Fili. I mean, I hate to call you that, but I mean this is like a hardcore would say this is an amazing card. It's not amazing like I've seen a lot better. This isn't going to be in the running for card of the year or anything, but it's going to be an amazing way to start 2020 for the UFC, I believe. But like I was saying, 1-1, only person to knock out Wonder Boy is Anthony Pettis, and then he lost to Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz's return, he lost a significant decision there back in August, 22-9 with 18 out of his 22 wins via finish. Fahea is 16-2, currently on a 5-fight winning streak. UFC wins include Mirabek Tusumov, Rustem Kaibulov, Kyle Nelson, Jared Gordon, Oliver Arbin Mercier. Those are his 5-fight winning streak. He also beat Ramzi Naheem early in his UFC career. His 2 losses are Dustin Poirier and Beneil Dariush. Poirier, I mean, you can see huge name, Dustin Poirier, and then Beneil Dariush got a lot better ground game than him. He has never been submitted, though. On the other hand, I believe Beneil Dariush, I can't remember that fight really off the top of my head, but I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Dariush just kind of held him on the ground and kind of Kevin Lee'd him to win the fight. Not Kevin Lee against what was his name? Not Gallagher. What was Buddy's name? Gillespie. Not against Gillespie. Kevin Lee against like RDA or something. You know what I mean? And that fight's going to be hard. I like Pettis coming back down to 55. I like him by knockout, too. I think he get a lot better nutritionist working with him. And if that's the case, he gets back down a lot slimmer, a lot healthier at 155. His power is going to remain there. You will not knock out Anthony Pettis. I don't believe you for a second, Gregory. Anthony Pettis will fuck you up. He's the only man to ever knock out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And Wonderboy Thompson has had, what are we talking, 20-something pro MMA fights. He's never been knocked out till Pettis. Coming up a weight class, that was Pettis' first fight at 170. I don't know, man. It's a lot of bragging rights he gets just from doing that. And then you're just seeing his track record before that. He's the running off the wall. Okay, he's just a flashy striker. He's got that flashy kind of style. Fahey is going to be more trying to get the fight to the floor. And let's hope that Pettis can stop that, because we know Pettis is not the greatest on the ground. We've seen what happened with him and Pettis, or Poirier, right? I think that was Poirier versus Pettis. Or who was he fighting? I think it was Poirier, where he's fighting in Norfolk. I went to see that 2017. Anyway, I got Pettis. I got Pettis knockout in that first fight. Then we came to Claudia Gadelha, Alexa Grasso. Gadelha is 17-4, only fought once in 2019, beat Ronda Marcos by decision. She's never been finished in any of her 4 losses. 7 out of 17 of her wins are via submission. She's lost to Joanna twice, Jessica Andrade, and Nina Antonov, which was her most recent loss. She's only lost to 2 top women in that division, plus Nina Antonov, which is up-and-coming star in that division. Alexa Grasso is 11-3. 3 losses are to Felice Herrig, Tatiana Suarez, and Carla Esparza. Tatiana Suarez, I believe, is going to be fighting for that title after the Wally Zhang, Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight. 4 out of 11 of her wins via TKO, never been knocked out, only been submitted once by Tatiana Suarez, who's a lot bigger in that division than Alexa Grasso or Claudia Gadelha. So it's easy to see, 1 out of 2 of her losses are via submission. So, Claudia Gadelha is a great submission artist, lots of cardio. Or, Claudia Gadelha gasses out, right? Which one is it? She gasses out, she got good cardio. I think she gasses out every fight. Either way, it's a 3-round fight. Any professional should not gas out in the 3-round fight. Anybody should be ready for a 5-round fight for the title fights, and you get down to those 3-round fights, and they should be a breeze. You should run straight through the 3-round fights. So we'll see what happens with Claudia Gadelha. I like Alexa Grasso, and I think if she could keep it standing, she'll knock her out. So I got Alexa Grasso just because I like seeing knockouts, and the women's knockouts are a lot more rare, so it's a lot more of a risk, I believe, to Conor Gasses in one, but one is all he needs. That's 100% true. When I get to the Conor McGregor, I think it's going to be a very, very hard thing to discuss. You know what? Yeah, it's going to be. I'm going to wait. I got 2 more fights, and then I get to Conor McGregor, because Conor McGregor is going to be the longest topic that I have, because it's his comeback. There's a lot of different factors to factor into what he's going to look like in this comeback, which is a comeback, but he's done this before. He went on the 2-year hiatus from Eddie Alvarez to Khabib. Now he's gone on this, year and a half hiatus between Khabib and this. He's done this before, and he's came back just fine. But, he lost to Khabib when he came back that one time. So you couldn't really see, how does he look? Because he was fighting somebody that takes him to the ground. That's not his specialty. That's not what he's good at. He doesn't thrive being on the ground. That's actually, I think, all 3 or 4, however many losses Conor McGregor has, all of them, I think it's 4, all of them come by submission. Every single one. Joe Duffy, Nate Diaz, Khabib, and then the first guy, I fucking always forget the first dude's name that submitted him. But all of them come by submission. So, and that plays a part in what I think is going to happen with this fight. But we'll get back to Alexei Oleinik versus I picked Alexa Grasso, but we'll go back to Alexei Oleinik, Maurice Green. Alexei Oleinik is 57-13, which gives him a total of 70 pro MMA fights. He's got 45 submissions out of his 57 wins. Currently on a 2-fight losing streak at the moment, though. He got knocked out by Overeem and Walt Harris in 2019, so he's had a pretty rough 2019. 7 out of 13 of his losses are via TKO or knockout, which brings us to Maurice Green. Maurice Green's 8-3, so only 11 total fights. 70 career fights to 11 career fights. 4 out of 8 of Green's wins are via submission, so he's also somewhat of a submission artist there. He's only been knocked out once, and he's never been submitted in his career. So we're either looking at one of 2 things. We're either looking at Oleinik getting knocked out again by a guy who's predominantly a grappler, or we're looking at a guy that has never been submitted fighting a guy with 70 pro fights and is more than likely going to submit him. And although there's a lot of things to look at with Maurice Green, I will never look past the boa constrictor. And I think Alexei Oleinik's going to wrap that up pretty fast and quick in a hurry, in my opinion. So Alexei Oleinik there. So our first 3 picks, getting done with the first sheet, is Anthony Pettis, Alexa Grasso, Alexei Oleinik. Excuse me. Which brings me to Holly Holm versus Raquel Pennington. 2 women who have not had the best UFC careers. Holm 12-5, 8 TKO or KO wins out of her 12 wins. 2-5 since 2016, which is where I was getting that. She's getting a little bit rocky these days. Lost her most recent fight for the 135-pound title to Amanda Nunes. She won the title from Rousey in 2015 and immediately lost it in her next fight to Miesha Tate. That was back in 2016. She's only been finished twice, one by TKO. That was Amanda Nunes, and one by Miesha Tate. That was by submission. Raquel Pennington, 10-7, only has 1 TKO or knockout win. 3 submission wins, only been submitted once, only been knocked out once. 1-2 since 2018. TKO by Nunes, decision by Jermaine Duraname were her 2 losses since 2018. She won a split decision against Irene Aldana and has already lost to Holly Holm back at UFC 184 in 2015. No, oh, dude, see, you're crazy, Greg. You're honestly, I think you're a little bit up here. You're a little crazy, man. Holly Holm's the biggest bust in UFC history. Check this out. This is where I can go into MMA math. Okay, you say Holly Holm's biggest bust in MMA history. She was not hyped nearly as big as Ronda Rousey was hyped, and she knocked out Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was hyped as, oh, this and this and this, and she was the first girl in the UFC to beat Ronda Rousey. So how is she the biggest bust? If you put those 2 next to each other and say who was the biggest bust, Rousey was pushed much harder. She had way more hype behind her, and Holm knocked her out. How is Holm the bigger bust than Rousey? Just out of those two people, you know? How? I don't understand it. I could think of a ton of other people that were bigger busts than Holly Holm, but just think about that fact there. Rousey versus Holm. Who was the bigger bust? Who was pushed harder? Who was promoted harder? Rousey. Holm beat Rousey in incredible fashion, knocked her clean out. And Rousey's biggest problem was she's a great judo fighter, great grappler, and her coach tried to convince her she was a great boxer and a great kickboxer. And that's why she got knocked out by Holm. And that's why she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes when she came back. Because she was just convinced that she's just this world-class striker. She's not. That's not her MO. She needed to hip toss Holly Holm, try to put her on the ground. She just couldn't get a hold of her. She was just getting hit by all different angles. So I completely disagree on that. And I think if we're looking at this fight here with Pennington, it was going to be some wrecking machine. Yeah, everybody did. Everybody thought like, oh, she just beat the best, Ronda Rousey. But women aren't like that. You know what I mean? Women are like, Chris Cyborg got knocked out by Amanda Nunes. But I guarantee you Chris Cyborg goes over to Bellator and cleans out the whole goddamn division. Beats the whole division. It's so iffy with women fights. Like, the only women I've seen be constantly dominant the entire time they've been there are Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko. And even Valentina Shevchenko lost like 3 times to Amanda Nunes. So, I mean, technically the only one's Amanda Nunes. She's the only one that's been just 100%. And I'm pretty sure she's lost. I think who she lost to, look it up right now. She lost to, I think it was either like Misha Tate or Kat Zingano or something. She lost to somebody. Amanda Nunes. She's got 4 losses. Kat Zingano in the UFC. And then her 3 other losses were Sarah Diallo, Alexis Davis, and Anna Maria India, all before her UFC days. But her 1 UFC loss was to Kat Zingano. So, I mean, think about how you think of Kat Zingano, and you're going to call Amanda Nunes a person who beat Cyborg, Rousey, Shevchenko 3 times a bust because she lost to Kat Zingano? No, you can't do that, man. It's just women's fights, man. It's just, especially early in your career, shit happens, man. Shit happens. You would never expect. Let's think about it. Let's think about some guys' fights that. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to think like that because it's like it's more of like a pecking order. It's more of like a mental thing for the guys when they go in there that this guy has shown himself. He's beat this guy. He's beat this guy. He's beat this guy. All 3 of those guys have beaten me. That guy's a better fighter than me. And I mean, math doesn't always work like that, but at the same time, it kind of does. It's a mental thing at that point. It doesn't work as far as because this guy beat this guy has no chance. That's not how it works. Because the guy has a chance to fight. But mentally, that guy sees if that guy, all right. If McGregor fought Pettis, Khabib, and Nate Diaz and beat all 3 of those guys, and Don Cerrone lost to all 3 of those guys, although Cerrone still has a chance, Cerrone in his head will think he found a way to beat all 3 of those guys. I couldn't find a way to beat those guys. So it's just a mental thing for guys, and I think that's what leads to a lot more of just like a pecking order of, you're not going to be Amanda Nunes and beat everybody in the division and lose to Kat Zingano. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen for men. But that happened for women. That happened for Ronda Rousey. That happened for Holly Holm. Holly Holm, I think, got the dirty end of the stick when it came to Germaine de Mandere. She could have been another champion once again. And although she was kind of getting beat up a little bit in that fight, Germaine de Randamie should have had 2 points taken from her from 2 late shots at the end of the first and the second round. So 2 points get taken from her. She loses the fight, or it's a draw at best. Which means that nobody wins a title, and back to square one. They just rebook the fight and then give Holly Holm another chance. But it's just another blemish on Holly Holm's record when it didn't need to be. Excuse me. It seemed like all the evidence was there for Holly Holm to win that fight. So it's a lot of that too. It's a lot of referee judging. Imagine we would be thinking of, Johnny Hendricks is one of the best fighters in all of UFC history right now, if the refs called it correctly. He beat the shit out of George St. Pierre in that fight. And the referee said, or the judges said, George won. So George beat all these people, came back and beat Bisping. He's one of the greatest ever now. But if he loses to Johnny Hendricks, what happens to his legacy? You know, where does he go from there? Does he even keep fighting? Does he retire after losing to Hendricks and come back and try to challenge for the belt again? You're out of your fucking tree, dude. You're out of your noodle, bro. You're straight up out of your noodle. Hendricks dominated the entire fight on the floor, grappling-wise, and beat the living shit out of GSP. His face. Dude, GSP got up, and you can even see it when he raised his hand. GSP's like, he knew he didn't win that fight. GSP himself knew for a fact he did not win that fight. Dude, I mean, I didn't, back then, I wasn't, back in those days, I'm going to be completely honest, I wasn't on the level I am right now, so I wasn't, like, counting rounds or doing anything like that. Back in those days, I was just like, whoa, that dude got the shit kicked out of him, you know what I mean? That's all it really was. I wasn't like, oh, this guy won 3-2, this guy won 4-1. I wasn't that deep into it back then, so I couldn't really tell you what the round score was. If I watched it again, I could tell you. If I went back and watched the fight again, I could tell you exactly who won what round and all that shit, but I haven't seen that fight in so long. I just remember watching it when I was younger. And I remember seeing Hendricks just fucking wrestle the shit out of him. And then I didn't even notice GSP throughout the fight getting that fucked up. And then when you seen him at the end, his face is all fucking bruised and red and purple and shit. And it's just like, oh, dude, that guy won. You know what I mean? It's like a, I don't know how to put it. It's like I can't even think of another fight to put an analogy with it, but it's like when you're fighting in a street fight and there's no judges, right? And nobody gets knocked out. There's no submissions. There's no stupid shit in street fights. It's all just fighting. And one guy's bleeding at like fucking crazy and the other guy's completely fine. And the guy that bleeding's like, oh, but I slammed you twice, so I won the fight. Like, you know, you're the one that's probably got to go to the hospital right now, pal, and the other guy's going to like go back to his house and hang out. So you didn't win the fight, you know? It goes back to that type of thing. Like, you just look at GSP and you're like, that guy lost. Like, regardless of what happened, he lost. He's visibly lost. And Johnny Hendricks probably didn't have like one scratch or so. Didn't have shit on his face. That's what it goes back to for me. It's not necessarily that. Like, if I had to describe the way that GSP looked compared to the way Johnny Hendricks looked, I would think the fight was 5 rounds to 0. That's how I would think, just based off the way they looked after the fight. But I'd have to go back to watch to really get it. But I got Holly Holm there in that fight right there. So now, what Greg's been waiting for here, Conor McGregor, Donald Cerrone. Conor McGregor's last fight was October 2018, lost to Khabib. Before that, of course, we know he won the title over Alvarez, become double champ, 18 out of 21 of his wins via TKO or knockout. He's never been knocked out, but all 4 of his losses are by submission. And this is the return of the Mac right now. That's why it's labeled in the thumbnail. Sick thumbnail, I know. Credits to me, Photoshop King. Donald Cerrone's 36-13-1. 2-2 since returning to 155. He beat Alexander Hernandez and Alan Quinta and lost to Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. We all know how that Tony Ferguson fight went. That was an ugly fight. 27 out of 36 of his wins are via finish. He's fought 5 times since Conor McGregor's last fight and 11 times since after the Eddie Alvarez fight. So this guy from 2016, because that's when the Eddie Alvarez fight was, Don Cerrone has 11 fights. Conor McGregor has 1 fight in MMA. Because, you know, Conor McGregor got the fucking Floyd Mayweather thing. So MMA-wise, it's 11-1 as to how many fights they've had. Which is just a little, it's like crazy. It's just crazy to think that that's how often Cerrone was fighting. That's how long Conor McGregor's had off. We talked about the submission game. We've seen Cerrone submit Mike Perry, a much bigger fighter than Donald Cerrone is used to. Not much bigger fighter than Donald Cerrone because they were about the same size. I'd have to say that Perry is a little bit thicker than Donald Cerrone, but they're about like the same tall, width, shoulder, fucking wingspan, shit like that. And he was able to submit him. He was able to get him down, predominantly power striker, get him down, and put him in an armbar and finish the fight. McGregor has shown that if he hits the ground against a guy that knows anything about jiu-jitsu or is any type of advanced in jiu-jitsu at all, he lost the fight. So the biggest question of this fight is going to be, can Sparks blindfolded? Can Conor McGregor keep it standing? And if he does, what are we going to see out of Cerrone? We're going to see a tough chin out of Cerrone. Is Cerrone going to take a little while to go down? If he does, if he gets out of the first round with Conor McGregor in his 5-round fight, does Cerrone put the work on him in the later rounds? And then what happens? Then he gives up a takedown, and Cerrone gets him on the ground. And there's a lot of different factors that go into it. I want so bad to pick Donald Cerrone, but I got Conor McGregor, man. It's hard. It's very hard. I'm not a Conor McGregor fan. I've been skeptical of the whole Conor McGregor shtick the entire time he's been here since I think, what fight was it? The Chad Mendez fight is the fight that kind of really got me like, oh, I hope this guy gets his fucking ass kicked. But nothing bad against the guy. It could be a really good guy in person. It's just that's when shtick started, the whole like I need to talk shit, I need to get my name out there type of shtick, That's not the worst thing, but just gets annoying. Exactly what threw us offline just now. I know it. So I'm gonna pause that. I got McGregor, man. I don't think he sparks him. I think it's gonna be a very long fight. If not, he's gonna just land one of those punches early on. If he lands one of those power punches early on, it's night for Cowboy. If it's not night, could be trouble for Conor later on. But I'd put my money more on McGregor's power putting down Cerrone out than I would Cerrone being able to survive those punches. And we've never seen Cerrone like dive straight for takedowns. He wants to feel out the stand up. He wants to kind of keep you at range, try to kickbox with you, see what he could do. And if he tries to do that with Conor McGregor, 170 is a mistake. He will land left repeatedly. Cowboy with a smile. 170 is a mistake for who is the only thing I would ask, because McGregor looks very good, looks very fit at 170, but at the same time, we've seen Conor McGregor at 170, twice? A very, very close decision, I believe, against Nate Diaz, which could have went either way, and a submission loss against Nate Diaz. So he's only fought there twice, 1-1, could very well have been 0-2. Definitely a mistake for Conor. And you're giving Cerrone, who's fought both weights. That's what I don't get for Conor. If he's going after the George fight, yeah, you fight at 170 first, you get your feet in the water, and then you fight George. But he shouldn't be going for George. He's been talking this whole time like he wants a rematch with Khabib, wants a rematch with Khabib. Could be fighting Tony if Tony beats Khabib. Stay at your weight class, dude. Try to get your belt back. And if you do get that belt back, then you can try to go be double champ again and go beat the fucking whoever's the champ at 170. You don't even have to go through George unless George wins against I think they're going to try to put together George versus Usman. If George beats Usman, then you got to go through George no matter what. But McGregor, I got McGregor. It's not really like it's hard to be honest or anything like that. I got a lot of bias against McGregor, so I would really like to see Donald Cerrone win. This is a fight where I wouldn't be upset if I was wrong. So, but I do pick McGregor. I think the smart money is on McGregor. He's going to be the favorite for a reason. That power in the first round, especially going up to 170. He's lifting. He's got a lot more muscle on him. Who knows what that does for his speed, but his power is 100% going to be there, which makes me pick McGregor, unfortunately. Fortunately for me, and it's not, I hate to keep saying, like, unfortunately, like I'm shitting on the guy. I'm not shitting on him at all. I just don't like, I'd like to see him be a normal fighter. I don't like the whole, he thinks he's bigger than MMA. He thinks he's bigger than the UFC. He thinks he can come back every once a year, once every 2 years, and fight whoever he wants. Fight Khabib when he comes back. He got stripped to being the champ, goes away, comes back, fights for the belt. You know, it's like, dude, like you were gone for like 2.5 years, 2 years, dude. You got to get a couple fights. Like what he's doing now. I appreciate what he's doing now for the Cerrone thing. But if he does the Cerrone shit and wins and doesn't try to fight for another year, right back into the same situation. I hate that shit, man. I want to see you fight. I want to see you fight. I want to see you fight. 20-something years, you're wasting your prime if you keep waiting years on end in between your fights. You know? This is your prime. I want to see you fight 3-4 times this year. If you think this is your prime right here, and this is the best Conor McGregor we're going to see 3 to 4 times in 2020, please. And I don't really care about the shit talking. The shit talking's honestly funny sometimes. You know, I don't really have a problem at all with the shit talking to make fun of people. All that shit doesn't really bother me. The thing that bothers me is that the whole arrogance, the thinking that you're better than the MMA, better than the UFC. That's what pisses me off about McGregor. So if I seen him drop that and just keep the stick talk or shit talking stuff up, I really wouldn't. I mean, probably wouldn't become a fan of him, but I wouldn't really mind the whole Conor McGregor thing. If he loses, is he done? I don't think so, but I think that's what went into the 170 decision. I think for him it was pretty easy. It's a win-win situation. He loses to Cerrone. He says, "Oh, this ain't my weight class. Go back down to 155. Fights a contender at 155, then gets the winner of Tony versus Khabib." I think if he beats Cerrone, he's got options. Now you just beat Cerrone at 170. Dana already said you beat Cerrone, you get a title shot, so you can go down and get a title shot there. Or you already got a win at 170. So fuck it. I want to fight for the belt at 170, or I want to fight George if he loses the belt, or he loses the title fight, or whatever the case is. So he's got options on options on options. If he wins, if he loses, hey, not my weight class. Go back down to 155. So I don't really think that he's done, unless he just thinks that he's got enough money. Fuck all this fight and shit. The only way I could see him being done is if he gets knocked out. This could be his first knockout of his career. If he just loses like a close decision or something like that, or maybe even gets submitted. If he gets submitted again, I don't see him being done either, because then he just goes back to the drawing board, keeps working on his jiu-jitsu, which I've heard through the grapevine. You can't always trust the grapevine, but I heard that he's been working heavily on jiu-jitsu, so he should be a lot better at jiu-jitsu. But I don't know if he was serious. Was Conor McGregor serious about going for the 170 belt? I don't know if necessarily. I think he's serious about everything he says. Everything he says, he believes it. But I don't know if it's possible. That's my thing. I think that Conor McGregor will have a good chance against a couple guys at 170. I think Usman's not one of them. Masvidal is not one of them. Hell, I even think Thompson would be hard for him. He's got a couple. There's a lot of fights at 170 I don't see him doing really good with at all. So I don't think that it's really I think he wants the money fight. I think if first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. If Masvidal beats Usman and becomes a champion, Masvidal is the biggest star in the UFC at that time. As soon as he does that, he becomes the biggest star in the UFC. If Masvidal fights Conor and he beats Conor, the biggest star in the UFC. So Conor sees that. Conor says, even if he's the number 2 star or number 1 star, whatever he is, top guy or second guy to me fighting him is probably the biggest fight in the UFC, regardless if he has a belt or not. The biggest fight in the UFC that they can make. Besides, I guess, DC and Jones again. Jones beat him 3 times or twice, right? Jones beat him twice, so it's not really like nobody really wants to see that, but it's still a big fight because all that beef they got. But McGregor Masvidal, as far as like star power, would be the biggest fight in the UFC to date right now. So I don't think he necessarily wants to go after the belt. I think he wants to go after Masvidal, go after the money fight, because that's what fight's going to make the most money is the George Masvidal fight. The biggest, any fight that he takes, Khabib, Tony, Poirier, fucking Usman, any of these guys, none of those fights make as much money as Conor McGregor, George Masvidal. Makes the most money at pay-per-view points. It'll probably break records with pay-per-view. Even though we live in a streaming age where people stream. You don't fucking pay for the pay-per-view. It would still break pay-per-view records. It would still break attendance records in whatever venue they do it in. Hell, they've been talking about doing it at Cowboy Stadium for however long. They put that fight in Cowboy Stadium, probably sell the motherfucker out. You know what I mean? It's about like it's like if when Nunes if Nunes was as big of a star as she is right now, and she fought Rousey before Rousey lost to Holly Holm. It's like if that fight happened. If Amanda Nunes had accomplished what she accomplished to this day, and she fought Rousey before Rousey lost to Holm, that's what it would be like for Conor McGregor versus Masvidal. Like right now. Right now. He loses to Cowboy, it hurts a little bit, but you know, just because he is Conor McGregor, he's still that guy. You know, he's not as proven, so he's not the same Conor McGregor that was talking all that shit but beat everybody that he fought, because of course he has a couple losses. But he's still that guy. He's still that guy that talks shit. He's still that guy that's arrogant. He's still the guy that wears suits. You know, he's still Conor McGregor. He still has guys like you that think, oh, Conor will beat this guy. Conor will beat this guy. Conor will beat this guy. So, like, he has fans. He has immense amount of fans. He's got probably the most fans out of any fighter in the UFC. So, you know, that's where it's at about being the biggest star. Not necessarily the wins, losses, because if it was about wins or losses, Khabib would be the biggest star in the UFC because he's never lost. But he's not. Sadly, he's not. He's one of the biggest fighters in Russia, by far, probably the most popular fighter in Russia, but not in the world like McGregor. McGregor's the most popular fighter in Ireland and top 2, if not first, most popular fighter in the world, the entire world. He's got mad losses on his record. 4 and a boxing loss. So I don't know, man. Greg, tune in next week. We'll be announcing a winner. If you've, like I said earlier, if you've already subscribed to the channel, let me know, and I'll enter your name into the drawing. And I guess, you know, just show up next week, and I'll find a way to get in contact. You send me your email, some shit. I'll find a way to get in contact with you. And if you win, I'll send you the shirt somehow. I'll figure out a way. If you haven't already subscribe, man. And just let me know you're going to subscribe, and I'll put you in there anyway. I'll write down your name right now, actually. On my phone, I don't got a pen out here. So I write it down right here. Right here. Wish I was talking to you so you could tell me how to pronounce your last name. It's a wild last name. But yeah, man, I got you in there. So you'll be in there with everybody else with a chance to win this shirt. It's not a long sleeve; it's a short sleeve. It's a little bit brighter or red. We'll be giving that away next Thursday. We'll be having a show. I'll have the computer set up. Me and my daughter. Daughter will be the one picking the name out. Whole nine. So see you guys next week. And next week when we do that giveaway, we will be 2 days away from seeing the return of the Mac, Conor McGregor versus Donald Cerrone. And no matter what Gregory says, it's a great card. Everybody wants to see it from top to bottom. Upcoming star after upcoming star. If I could tell you about every guy and girl on this card that's going to be something one day, we're talking about Ode Osborne, Oscar Askarov, Grant Dawson, Nasrat Hepcrast, although he has already kind of got a big name for himself. Macy Barber, Sadiq Youssef. Who else is pretty young? Maurice Green, but I think he's going to lose. Carlos Diego Ferreira, although I think he's going to lose him as well. Alexa Grasso gets another chance to step up. Then of course, you got the biggest name in fucking MMA, man, Conor McGregor, to top the whole card off. It's going to be a great card. I look forward to it. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks without UFC, so definitely look forward to having it back. I might, man. I got to see. What's it? The 18th. I'll see. If not the whole fight, I might just do. I mean, if not the whole card, I might just do that fight just to see what kind of reception we get from it. I might commentate that fight. But I can't show anything. I got copyright laws and shit, so I can't show anything. I can't play any volume or anything like that. So it would just be me watching the fight and then commentating on the fight. So I'm more than down to do that for you guys. Done it before. Do a decent job at it, but I get a little off topic a lot. So, but yes, for the Conor fight, I will stream, not the whole card, but you can definitely check in for that fight, and I will be live. So Thursday, next Saturday, at least for the main event, maybe the whole card. See you then, guys. Till then, barbecue pit out. Cook some shit up for me. Holla, Greg. Appreciate you being with me.